The cerebral cortex is divided into four different parts, or what are referred to as lobes. So I'm just going to walk through this image here, summarizing the general functions of the different lobes of the human brain. So at the back of the head here in purple is the occipital lobe. The occipital lobe is heavily involved in visual processing. So when information comes into your eyes and is processed by cells in your retina, it gets sent all the way to the back of the brain, to the occipital lobe, which is home to visual cortex and plays a heavy role in your ability to visually perceive the world around you. Damage to the occipital lobe can impact your visual perception. Slightly above the occipital lobe, here in the blue, we have the parietal lobe. Now, the parietal lobe is important for a variety of different functions. Basically, what we have here is the ability to sense and perceive touch, temperature. This is also home to sensory strip, a strip of cortex that allows us to register what's going on in the outside world, coming in through the eyes, ears, nose, taste buds, etc. And overall, the parietal lobe is really involved with processing body sensations. Right here by the ears, we have the temporal lobe. Very interesting lobe of the brain. Really important for processing auditory information. As you can see, it's located very adjacent to the ears, which makes functional sense. And the temporal lobe is also important for a variety of functions like memory, learning, and other psychological functions that we'll talk about in this class. This is a real psychological hotspot of the brain, and we'll be talking a lot more about the temporal lobe later in the course. Here's the frontal lobe, and the frontal lobe is really critical for your ability to think critically, plan ahead, knowing that something is due or knowing that you have to do something later. This lobe of the brain is heavily involved in your ability to kind of weigh pros and cons, to anticipate consequences of behavior, to inhibit impulses. This is kind of like our more advanced thinking, higher abstract thought. All of that is reliant in some way on the frontal lobes. So you should be familiar with these different lobes of the cortex and their general functions.